Good morning, everyone. We'll get started shortly. We're letting everyone join us this morning. Good morning, everyone. We are letting everybody in. We'll get started here shortly. Give it another 30 seconds, and then we are going to go ahead and get started with our webinar this morning. Thanks for joining us. All right, hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Shannon Lean, and I will be your host today. I am the Director of Marketing over North America at Capspire. Thank you for joining us today for the Capspire and ION Openlink V26 New Capabilities Real Business Impact webinar. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. As this is an open webinar, we recognize that many of you are leaders across the industry, and we truly value the diverse perspectives in the room. Before we dive in, I want to go ahead and go over some housekeeping notes. Today's session will run for approximately 60 minutes. We'll have a Q&A at the end. The chat feature is disabled, so please put any questions that you have in the Q&A. And this webinar is being recorded, and we will share it with our clients and potential clients thereafter. Now let's get started with the good stuff. Today's topic is Openlink V26, New Capabilities, Real Business Impact. And we're incredibly excited to be joined by our two panelists today. David Gross, Vice President, Product Management at ION, and Patrick Erstein, Openlink Managing Director at Capspire. David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks so much, Shannon. It's great to be with you all today. My name is David Gross. For those who don't know me, I am the Vice President of Product Management here at Openlink for our commodities work. I've been with Openlink and now ION for about 2 decades. Worked with various parts of the market, gas, power, bulk commodities, softs, etc. And very excited to be with you here today. My responsibility is to listen to our clients, take in new ideas and incorporate those into our roadmap. So these are always really exciting opportunities for me to hear all your questions. Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, David. My name's Patrick Erstein. I'm the Managing Director over the Openlink Endure practice for Capspire. And we, similar to you, David, work in all spaces: gas, power, bulks, softs, crude oil, refined products, ags, anything, you name it, we're there. And I have the opportunity to support and lead great teams of Endure SMEs with a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge specific to Openlink Endure to help make clients successful, whether that's doing greenfield implementations, upgrades, or just helping clients support and use their systems better on a day-to-day basis. And we have a great team here at Capspire, and we're happy to be ION partners as well.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, David. All right, our agenda today is as follows. We'll begin with a product update from ION, followed by a product presentation. Then we will dive into the Capspire and ION partnership advantage and end with a Q&A. So let's dive right in. David, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much again, Shannon. All right, we're going to go real quick today because there's a lot to cover, but we're going to start with just a little bit of a recap. As many of you are probably aware, Openlink's release schedule works on a yearly basis, right? So every year we put out a new major version release. We've just put up here some of the key themes from our recent releases, and those center around some of the things that you'll see as we go in to talk in more detail around some of the new innovations that we have in version 26. User experience, always work around how do we keep up with market changes. So for our traditional commodities, lots of things around energy transition, and that includes certificate management as well, and lots of different regimes that are out there, and plenty of changes, obviously, in the areas of technology, automation, scalability, security, etc. So as I mentioned, important to remember, right, what our release timelines look like. Those release timelines, we have a major version release every year. That major version is typically released in the first quarter. So we alternate between January, February, and next year it'll be planned for the first week in March to release our version 27 release. We're on a 4-year release cycle, so important if you're on older versions of the application to be thinking about, when are you going to be doing your next upgrade? We always try to include a lot of good, interesting incentives from a new functionality perspective to help justify that upgrade and make sure that you're getting the most out of the application and the capabilities that we're providing. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is something that a number of our clients who've worked with CapSpire have done in the past, is participate in our beta program. It's a great opportunity to get an early jump, an early look at some of the new capabilities that we're going to be releasing, and to get a head start on your upgrade projects. As we look at, once a release comes out the door, we have a regular maintenance release cycle, and it's important also to stay up to date on our regular maintenance releases as well. One of the benefits of taking the new versions of the Openlink application is we're always putting more capabilities, but also more testing around everything we do. So from a quality perspective, all our newer releases are going to have the latest fixes, are going to have the most stability, the most security updates. From that perspective, we're always recommending to look at taking new releases whenever the opportunity presents itself for you. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit into our product. First, always like to start about, I mentioned in my introduction, right, my responsibility is to speak to all of you, understand where the market needs are going, and then bring those back into our product roadmap. We do that in a number of ways. We do that through interactions directly, but we do that very much so with the feedback that we get through our partners and your interactions with them as well. So CapSpire being one of those partners, Patrick and I have a very close relationship where we speak on a regular basis, and we're always getting new suggestions that are coming from those interactions that you're having with those partners, in addition to the ones that we're having directly. From that perspective, also a great opportunity to go in more depth with us in a couple weeks here, actually. We're going to be having our connection event, which we typically do every 18 to 24 months or so. And that is going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona in May. So hopefully I'll get to see some of you there. But that's another great opportunity where we get to have some more in-depth discussions and really bring those back into the product roadmaps. And that's how we try to ensure that we're giving you the things that are most important to you. In that regard, right, where are our key areas that we're investing in the program and in the product here? And these really represent, I think, what over the last couple of years and going into the next couple of years will continue to be some of the key areas where we're putting our investments. So power and renewables, obviously lots of changes that are coming with renewable energy. So our certificates module, which has been something which I'll talk about in a second, but we've put a lot of effort into that over the last number of years, standardized that module. That's on a release schedule that's separate from the normal release schedule, so it's a completely independent module, so it allows us to be very responsive to changes in the markets. User experience, which I'll talk about. Technology, always lots of changes coming. Obviously, there's an AI revolution out there that everybody's thinking about. We'll talk about some of the initiatives that we have going on in that area as well. Risk and analytics, our bread and butter, right? Why are you buying and using an ETRM system? It's because you want to have an ever-present awareness of what your risk profiles look like. You want to be able to simulate what those changes in the markets, especially with lots of volatility like we have going on right now. And all of our solutions around that are geared to how do we provide better data in that area. And then, obviously, again, what's our core? Our core is supporting your businesses. So anything around our traditional energy markets, right? So thinking about natural gas, how do we automate there? We'll talk a little bit about that. Bulk commodities, refined products, et cetera, power, lots of activity in those areas as always. So always want to start a little bit, sorry about that, with some UX related things. Obviously, we have a legacy application, right? And we use it every day also. And we always think about how do we make it better, right? So some of the things that we've done more recently include new capabilities around modeling our deal skins. I'll talk a little bit about also the theming, right, in the application as well. So within the version 26 release, there's a couple of important things here. There's some new themes that we're providing, a new Ion Light and Ion Dark theme. This is to provide sort of a more complete and cohesive view of our themes across our Ion applications. And so you're going to see some changes that are available there. You don't have to use them. These are opt-in, and they're user configurable. So if you want to use a dark mode, if you want to use a light mode, those are things that the user can choose, just like in a lot of applications that you'll see out there. These are just some examples of some of the newer deal skins. And one of the capabilities that we've added there, again, you have lots of flexibility when you design your deal skins, but some new capabilities that we've provided, the ability to create sections that you can expand and collapse. That makes it a lot easier to organize your data and simplify the look and feel and the workflow that you have for entering deals in the system or finding deal data in the system. In addition to that, we've tried to provide other capabilities, like you'll see here, we show on the front screen of the deal what your P&L is of the deal. So you don't have to go into the pricer, click, have multiple clicks to see, basic information that you might want to do before you're booking a deal in the system. So these are kind of important. And as I mentioned, right, our new light and dark themes, very important from our perspective to try to modernize the look of the application. Also, you'll hear about some of the workflow improvements that we've made on some of the screens in the application. But this continues to be one of the big focus areas for us. We want to provide, a better, more consistent, modern look and feel for the application to make it easier for our users to adopt changes and new capabilities that we provide. So these are just some examples of the Ion Light theme that you'll see in the application. And again, this is available in version 26. You can opt in to try it. You can opt in to use it. That's up to you. And just some examples of what the dark theme will look like. The dark theme is something that we're still continuing to work on some of the screens in the application. It is available for you to test right now, and we expect it to be more completed in our MR3, which is upcoming this summer. Okay, so covered UX, I mentioned key for us, obviously, always is capabilities around our risk and analytics. This is a slide some of you may have seen before because this has been a long-standing project for us in terms of how do we provide better access to the data in the system with regard to your risk data. And we created a product we call RDS, or Risk Data Stream, which allows you to stream data out of the application from your risk results into Kafka. Kafka is a streaming capabilities platform. That can be your own Kafka. You bring your own resources, etc. But we provide you ways to, in real time, provide that data into Kafka and update your own applications that you might want to where you might want to consume this data. So those could be data warehouse applications. Those could be business intelligence reporting, right? So things like Power BI, etc. Additional visualizations that you want to do. But we also use that data and have provided ways to use that data in our own applications. And I'll talk about some of those in a little more detail. One of the key things that we've done is provided a new risk limits application that works on top of this streaming data. That's something that's available and has been available since version 18. And coming now, which is we have a couple of clients who've already done pilots with us on this, is what we call our streaming aggregation service. And that is a way to underpin the real-time positions that you're viewing in our APM viewer using Kafka streaming data as an alternative to using our ADS in-cache memory store. That's important because as we look at things like ADS, these are technologies that are aging out. And we expect that the Oracle Coherence technology that we've built ADS on will age out. And so we have a limited support in place for ADS after 2029. So we're encouraging our clients to start to look at if you're using ADS today, if you have a large amount of data, growing amount of data, which is what most of our organizations have, then streaming aggregation service is something that you should start considering moving over to. And we didn't want to just move to a newer technology. We wanted to move to a newer technology that gives you a significant amount of benefits. Some of the key benefits of this is it's a hosted managed service application. That gives us the opportunity that if there are issues, we can patch those, fix those very, very quickly. We can have direct capability to understand where issues may occur. So from a support and scalability perspective, very powerful. But also from a performance perspective, this gives us a tremendous amount more room for growth for data as we see data growing in our applications and with our clients. And we've seen some really positive results of that in the testing that we've done with our clients with their data. So as we look at it compared to this new service for underpinning APM, in comparison to ADS, we see that streaming is giving us significant performance improvements, significant improvements when you're bringing in data intraday. Very important specifically today, right, as things are becoming more real time in all of our environments. As we bring in that data real time, we're seeing that. It also has tremendous opportunity for us because what it means is with the newer technology, whereas if you had some kind of issue, failure, batch updates, whatever, you'd have to take the service down. This service does not have to come down. It's continuously operating. And so you don't have to continue it. You don't have to restart it, every day, things like that. Makes maintenance and operations much easier than what you might have had in the past with ADS. Just some other examples where we've done some comparisons to ADS. When you're bringing up large reports in APM, for example, on the APM desktop, the first time you bring those up, significantly faster performance from that perspective. And what we did was also what we call an incremental update stress test. We took all of the updates that you might have had over the course of several weeks and did them all at once. And what we saw in that case, when you essentially try to flood the system with ADS, was there was a long time that it took for ADS to process that data, versus with streaming aggregation, we were able to do that, as you see here, in about 72 times faster. So newer technologies, newer capabilities, ready to handle the significant amount of growth in data that we expect with our clients over the next few years. Technology, very important. So in version 26, one of the key initiatives that we had in place was updating some of the older technologies that we were using. We were using older versions of Java, Java 8 and Java 11. Both are approaching end of life. So we took the initiative to move to Java 21. And part of the reason that we did that as well was we, just like all of our clients do, we run several tools to look at vulnerabilities in the system. Our vulnerabilities typically tend to come from third-party libraries that we're using, like Java, right? And those are continually being exposed to new vulnerabilities that are found, etc. So by moving to Java 21 in version 26, we've provided an extremely resilient and secure version of the software. We've looked at, as part of that, we've refactored all of the third-party libraries that we use. We've packaged those up differently, so it's easier for us to provide updates to those. And we will be putting in place for version 26, and I'll talk about this in a second, that you'll have all of the information required to generate a software bill of materials. That's pretty important as regulatory regimes around understanding the types of things that you're using in your software become more important. And we're also putting in place a policy regarding addressing new vulnerabilities that will come up inevitably in some of these software products in the future, right? And how we will address those, and in some cases, either through patches or through maintenance releases in the future. So as I mentioned, starting with version 26, all of the information required for software bill of materials will be available. We'll provide that out for you to do whatever you need to from your compliance perspective. This is something that a number of our clients have been asking for, and will be available now going forward with version 26. The other big area, I think, to talk about here is some of the attention that we've put around our initiatives around adoption of artificial intelligence. For those of you who've seen some of these presentations in the past, you'll probably remember that we've had a number of initiatives around machine learning within ION for years. We have a product, actually, we call predictive pathing for North America gas pipelines, where we actually can go out, look at the data, historical data that you've used, look at current market trends and prices, et cetera, costs in the market, and come up with recommendations for paths that you might want to use as part of your natural gas scheduling activities. So we've had a experience using some of these artificial intelligence tools, but as we move more into Gen AI, agentic AI, our focus is more moving to those types of use cases. And they really divide up into three places within our application, into our product, which is, right, what you're experiencing, what you're using, how we build our products, right, and the governance around how we use those tools as part of our build process, and operations, right? So how we use these within client support, hopefully to provide better client support experiences, better access to data, help for things that you might be trying to do within the applications. So you see some of the things that we're working on here. We'll talk a lot more about this again in our connection event. Our initial focus on a product perspective is really around user experience types of things. How can we make things that you're doing in the application simpler, right? So think about things like natural language search assistance in the system, documentation access and search, and also when we think about how we do extensions to the system, right? Pretty much every one of our clients has some types of ops services, other extensions, scripts that you might write that might tailor the application to your business process. How can we make those easier to use, provide you with data and knowledge sources that allow you to that allow your people to write those codes much easier, and allow our partners to be able to provide those to you much faster than they would have potentially in the past. I think the other area there is more macro, right? How do we provide you access to different skills in the application via things like MCP, look at macro analytic data, and risk simulation type of data. So a lot more to come in that area, so certainly stay tuned around AI. We're always interested in if you have different types of use cases that you've already put into use. So certainly share those with us and with our partners as well. All right, on the power and renewables front, lots of things here. I mentioned our environmental credits module, or environmental certificates module, sorry. One of the key things here is we have an independent release cycle with this. And the important thing here is when we say certificates, we're talking about, we've recently expanded also our capabilities with biogas, renewable natural gas, so carbon. So it's not just power that we're talking about with this module. We have a large number of clients who are using this and continuing to grow into lots of different regimes where certificates are becoming more and more common. Those include linked certificates, where we're generating the certificates when you book the deals in the systems, or unlinked certificates that you may be trading as well. So very important to a lot of businesses as these kinds of capabilities are growing in the market. Also on the power side, a number of different enhancements that we've done. One of the key ones we did in version 26 is around enabling what we call incremental save. So if you're familiar with the commodity tool set, you have two ways to save deals in the system. One that does a full amendment of the deals, right? Basically copies everything on the deals, put that all into your history, and is a full amendment of the deal. The other way that you have within the commodity toolset is something called incremental save. So we do a save of everything, but we don't necessarily keep all of the a copy of the entire deal in its entirety. The reason that you might want to do that is, let's say you have some smaller changes that you make to a deal. You have info fields that you're updating, or other things that don't necessarily require a full amendment. You get significant performance benefits by having this capability to do incremental saves in the Power tool set. So something that you need to think about from a business process perspective, but some of the other things that come with it, we also did enhancements to, even when you do an incremental save where in the past you couldn't see what's necessarily changed, we have the ability in our history now with incremental saves to see a lot of that detail. So what's changed, even though it's not a full amendment of the deal. And so that's pretty powerful. This is kind of combined with something that we did in version 25, where we actually also gave you the capabilities on version changes to allow users to put in comments. And if you put those together, you get some pretty nice benefits. From a performance perspective, just some examples of some different tests that we did where you're changing maybe reference data, a broker, adding fees or modifying fees, and some significant improvements in the time that it takes to save those deals. And these are with some significantly large deals. Typically, we're taking longer term deals, so that are several years long in the Power toolset. And always looking for ways to improve the performance and provide better use of the system. So as I mentioned, also, we have these capabilities around requiring or optionally asking a user for a deal comment. This is something that you can control the environment variables, but then those version comments will also appear in your deal history. And combining that with the incremental save is a way to save some of the time that it takes when you're booking deals. Power as well, always adding new capabilities in the Power payment formula, right? So these are new functions that we've added around our data series capability, around getting more granular prices to be used in your formulas. Sometimes these are pretty important when you're modeling complex PPAs. And so we'll continue to add more of those capabilities in the system as well. Some other things we hear a lot about: battery storage, something becoming a lot more prevalent for a lot of our clients. We've created several prototypes starting in version 25 around this. Certainly something that we hope, if you have questions or you have this kind of business, certainly talk to our partners, talk to us, give us your requirements. We've added essentially an optimization model, very similar to if you think about our natural gas storage optimization model, if you're familiar with that. Just a whole bunch of different attributes, right? Charging capacity, discharge rate, things like that. And we've put that in place. So that's something that can be used by our clients around Power battery modeling. And lastly, in the power space, we've standardized our solution for FPRs, financial transmission rights. So if this is a market that you're in and you need some help with your solution around this, we do have a now standardized solution that we're supporting around FTRs. All right, quickly, we'll talk about natural gas. Our focus for natural gas for the last couple of years has really been around automation of the natural gas scheduling process. So for North America gas pipeline. So if you think about how you do your business today, and many of the customers we speak to, you'll often see this type of arrangement. You've got multiple places where you have to put this information. You're putting it into your ETRM because you have to keep your risk and positions up to date. You're putting it in spreadsheets because you have to manage a whole bunch of other things that maybe aren't in your ETRM system, and you're putting things in the EBBs as well because that's how you're communicating your nominations to the pipelines. What we've tried to do is create a solution with our EDI gateway in partnership with Nat Gas Hub, which is a prominent company that's providing EDI services out in the market, and to cut out the need to put things in so many places, right? So how do we automate the process? Well, you can stay directly and initiate your nominations in gMotion, in your gMotion screens for gas pipelines that are EDI compliant. Those will flow through Nat Gas Hub and into the pipelines, and we'll get back all of your scheduled quantities, right? So any cuts, etc., but all your scheduled quantities will automatically flow back and be linked to those nominations that you originally create. So if you're in a situation where you're on those pipelines, that works. The great thing is, even if you're in a pipeline or in a situation where you're creating your nominations outside of gMotion, right, and you need those to come back into gMotion, you can create those directly on the EBBs and still get the scheduled quantities to flow back directly into quantity management in gMotion automatically. And then there's a linking process that you can do to link those back up to nominations in the system. Great product, lots more detail, not enough time to go into it today. But just to mention some of the key things that we're currently working on and that are going into version 25 and up around this. As I mentioned, you can bring in scheduled quantities. Well, we're making that process even easier. We have a new screen called EDI Management. We will actually, when we get scheduled quantities back, we will have the capability to automatically generate your nominations from scheduled quantities so that you don't have to manually create those in the system. And then those can be linked to deals. And that's pretty powerful in terms of if you're working on lots of different pipelines, it will save you a lot of time and potentially issues with having to put things into multiple systems. We'll automate that process for you. The other things we're working on around EDI here, support for path non-threaded nominations via EDI. We already have capabilities in the system for capturing those types of noms, but we will be enabling the capability to send those to pipelines that are doing PNT noms as well. We'll also look at later this year automation of tariff updates. And we're also working on a process for a standard nomination upload from spreadsheets. So lots of capabilities around gMotion and around automation in that area. Lastly, just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about liquid and bulk commodities. So in the liquid and bulk space, mentioned from a user experience perspective, our new themes, but really more importantly than that, we always look at how do we improve workflows in the system. One of those that we worked on over the last year that was really important was within cMotion, our nomination management screen. If you think about the screen that we have today, we wanted to go back and redesign that screen to provide more information that the schedulers need or that ticketers need, people who are creating tickets need, right, in the application, provide a more tailored experience. So we did a whole bunch of research. We went out to 80+ clients to have discussions, present our different iterations of our designs, etc. And we came back with a new experience that has a lot more capabilities that people were looking for. So synchronization between nomination creation and nom management. So as soon as you create a nom, you'll see those noms, cargoes, etc. in the nom management screen. Configurable, much more configurable sections, ability to filter with quick filters that you see here. We've also added things like out-of-the-box contractual tolerance validation, the ability to link documents, etc. And a whole lot more in version 26 as well. A lot of capabilities around planning, right? So if you are creating repetitive types of activities in cMotion on an ongoing basis, you can create plans, you can copy those plans, you can turn those plans from plans into real live cargoes and nominations, etc. We've also added a whole new layer in cMotion called our vehicle object. This is really for modeling things like rail cars, truck activity. So if you have lots and lots of rail cars, unit trains, etc., we're managing those directly, and we can capture all of the information at that level in cMotion natively now. Some new capabilities around optionality and seeing those options directly in cMotion. So if you have contractual options for different locations, for different products, over different periods of time, etc., you can see all of those directly in cMotion. And if you have the right capabilities, choose those options to schedule on. We've added something called ticket level invoicing. So if you think about, again, large numbers of rail cars or trucks, each of those, you might have 100 of them come in. You might be able to send out 90 on an invoice, but you might have a situation where you need to break one of those out, or you need to send those independently, because if one of those is challenged, you don't want all 100 of them to be called into question. And then we've also added a number of other capabilities around customization in cMotion, extensions, etc., and also an ASTM calculator that we've created. So lots and lots of new capabilities coming from some of our collaborations with clients, with our partners. So really great stuff there. So I'm just going to quickly end off with a little bit of an overview, right? Why are some of the key reasons that we feel V26 is a good opportunity for you to think about an upgrade? It's absolutely the most secure version of Openlink. We've addressed all of the critical and high vulnerabilities that were present in the application. So we have a really good basis from a security perspective moving forward. Performance, scalability, right? Things like streaming APM, streaming risk, delivering high performance for those risk capabilities. And then key market investments. We talked about EDI, we talked about energy transition, we talked about liquid and bulk commodities. And definitely, if you're looking at this with your own technologies, many of you are going to have the same thing with Java 21, where you need to move at least to Java 21, and we'll start to move to higher levels of Java in version 27, possibly as well. So I think with that, that's probably a good quick overview. And Patrick, I'm going to turn it over to you to bring it now into the practicality, right, of how do we take these great innovations and turn them into benefits for our clients.
Patrick, before you get started, can I remind everyone that we do have the Q&A open, and we do see some questions in there, and we'll answer all of your questions at the end of the webinar. Thanks. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Shannon. And David, that's exactly right. Our clients all are interested in upgrading, whether past or everybody's looking at V26. And I know everybody on this call, having just heard that, is saying, yes, V26 seems like a great option. Now, how do we actually make it into a reality? And when we talk to our clients, we really focus on 4 things of making that a reality. Clients want to go live on time, on budget. That's super important for all projects. And then they want a great client experience. They want the project to be smooth. They don't want it to, run off the rails, have a lot of drama, or just cause their IT departments or their users a lot of stress. And we focus on that with our approach of just making it a great client experience. And then we want to make sure our clients really capture the value out of upgrading. And that's what I'm going to focus on here in the next couple of slides. Go ahead and proceed. One more. So a brief introduction for anyone on the call who isn't familiar with Capspire. We're a global CTRM, ETRM firm. That is what we do. We are not diversified into HR systems. We're not diversified into your, niche accounting systems, things like that. Every morning, everyone at Capspire wakes up, and our mission is to be the best in the world at CTRM, ETRM systems and making our clients successful in using those systems. And we have a great reputation at doing so. We have 400 folks worldwide that are dedicated to that. And we have a great tenure of really experienced people and really specialized across the whole Ion suite of products, Right Angle, Allegro, Aspect, and of course, Openlink Endure. And that gives us some great experience, not only to use our Openlink Endure experience, but also to pull on learnings from what makes projects successful, what makes clients successful, and how do these commodities really trade. So David, I'll let you go ahead and proceed forward. So when you first start thinking, so I'd like to actually just bring you some perspective, as I call upgrade considerations from the field. How do we actually make this successful? Okay, so when you first start thinking about your upgrade, here's some things I think you should consider being a business user or a product owner or a client. The first thing is know what's in your environment before anyone starts talking about the project. It's great to have a great inventory of what is all my technical debt? What are my customizations, scripts, interfaces, reports, and are those still being used and have those been changed? A lot of times when we go live, we have those, and then sometimes they're not kept up to date. And then the upgrade can't be using an old version of that. It won't be a successful upgrade. So starting to solidify that really helps get you the right scope. And then, shadow IT will find you at the worst possible moment. So it's great that your business users, especially if you're in an IT perspective, may be using RPA bots or Power Automate flows or have, data dumps into Access databases. Now, we don't always recommend those things. We like to talk about better ways to do that, but we also acknowledge that happens. That's part of everyday life. But those need to be incorporated and tested and made successful as part of your upgrade. And a lot of times, those are more business-led activities that IT is not as aware of. And you really need to work together as a business and IT organization to make sure all of that is captured to make your upgrade a success. And then database health problems. We help clients and will continue to help clients with database health problems of, is your purging strategy correct? Are you maturing deals? Are you doing the right things to keep your database running efficiently and the right size? And that should be something that's addressed and thought about during the upgrade scoping process. So as part of this upgrade, do we want to review our purging process and possibly adjust it? Is there functionality within the upgrade that we can use to help make our database size smaller or more healthy? And then clients think so much about, making the project a success. But then inevitably, you need to ask the question, when can we actually go live with this? There's close cycles, there's code freezes, there's SAP constraints or ERP constraints, month end, quarter end, fiscal year end, things like that. Make sure that asking that question up front so you're not ending up at the end of UAT and then realizing there's some go live constraint that wasn't planned for. We want to make sure that you have the right timeline to get the most value out of your upgrade. So one thing we do at the beginning of our upgrades to really help make them a success, and I'm a big fan of it, is for the business community, we'll try to host some type of event. A lot of times a happy hour or a lunch or something like that. And at the very beginning of it, we go through as a project team, IT organization, partnership, and say, here's what we're upgrading. Here's the scope of reports. Here's the scope of customizations. Um, Here is what we are focusing on. Business community, we know we've talked to you over the last few weeks. We know we've gathered everything. We're putting it all in writing. Please raise your hand if something has, come to mind, or you think we may be missing something. Doing that upfront really helps get the business community bought in to the upgrade. And they also get a chance to understand the value. We're going in and we're talking about the expected improvements of the upgrade before we even start, so they can get excited about it. And then so they can grade us on it. And then we have a great happy hour luncheon afterwards. And that really helps get engagement and some community and buy-in on the upgrade process so people are committed. You know, Teams meetings are great, but in-person meetings are also great to get buy-in and business community investment. So once we're into the upgrade, testing strategy is probably my favorite part because it can really make or break any project, but especially the upgrades. So if your test cases haven't been touched since go live, start there, use that, but don't end there. You can't depend on using your go live test cases in almost any case to upgrade your system. It needs to reflect today's business, not just your original implementation. That's really where communication, where CapSpire can help with that communication between IT, the project team, and the business community to make sure that today's business processes are getting tested as part of the upgrade. And then all that needs to happen way at the front of the project, not 2 weeks before UAT. That's a mistake that we see happen way too often, is testing is thought about really right before UAT. We want to start thinking about testing during the design phase or during the blueprint phase. And then too often we also see people make the mistake. They test the in-system business or the in-system process. That's great, but you need to test the flow. You need to test the entire process end to end, not just depend on the interface working or not depend on whatever data you're sending out to S4 working in S4. So ensure that you're testing the process end to end, and then really own the test plan and drive it from day one. And this is what I think we can make CapSpire can and does make projects really successful. So we understand a lot of us have come, myself included, have been business users. We've come from the client side. We've been users of ETRM systems. With that, we know, you know, you, our user community has day-to-day jobs. They're schedulers, they're traders, they're settlement analysts, folks like that. During UAT of an upgrade, they're still having to do their day-to-day job. So they don't want to have to uh, think and focus too much. They want the testing process to be laid out for them in a very easy manner and very efficient. And CapSpire really focuses on making that client experience for them very easy, very good, so they can not stress over UAT and they can focus on getting their day-to-day work done, but still testing the system properly. So CapSpire likes to think of upgrades in 3 different options. So we have our like-for-like upgrade. This is the lowest cost and lowest option. What works today works tomorrow. We upgrade to V26. It's the lowest disruption. Use your existing code base. If anything breaks, we fix it. It's good for environments that are in good health. that just need to stay up with support and get current. But we also really think the best option for most clients is the Upgrade Plus. So that's doing everything in the like for like, but it's really taking a focused approach to say what isn't working great in our system today, that while we're doing an upgrade project, we can improve, and also what V26 functionality exists now that we can take advantage of. Too often we see clients, focus on like for like and not really taking advantage of some of that V26 functionality. Great example of that is retiring technical debt and replacing it with core functionality. It does take some effort to do that, but it's almost always the right choice to do so to make your upgrade easier, to make your system more supportable, and to make your system more stable. So really consider the Upgrade Plus. But then the other option too is also a greenfield re-implementation. And we're seeing a number of legacy clients really consider this and go down this path. And you start with a blank V26 database, build it to spec, and then bring what you need into the system. It's a great way to retire technical debt rather than just migrating it forward. And it's right for legacy systems where a basic upgrade would just create the same problems that you're having in a new system. Um, so that's a much smaller subset, but it's also a good option to consider as well. So one of the ways that Capspire, I believe, really makes upgrades successful. And this is across all of our ETRM practices. We're leaning on all of our experience of making upgrades successful and making raving fans out of our clients, is having our Capspire's blueprint phase. So a standard blueprint is really just looking at the what's changed, talking about what are your customizations? What's your integration inventory? And then making assumptions. And it just makes a lot of assumptions for the rest of the project before you really get into anything. Capspire wants to have a separate blueprint phase where we actually upgrade your database to V26. And then we take a very small subset of your test cases, usually the harder, more complex ones, the ones that you're worried about, and we run those in your upgraded V26 database. And that tells us, you know, what's working, what needs to be adjusted, uh, what needs to be fixed. And the opportunity there, everyone wants to go down an upgrade plus path, but if you set your time and budget ahead of time on the upgrade plus, and then you find, you know, more changes are needed just for your base business than you expected, then your plus tends to shrink. But on the opposite side, if you find very little really needs to be adjusted in your database, then your plus can go out. Well, the Capspire blueprint really takes advantage of that. It allows you to see what needs to be done and then to expand that out forward. So you can set up the rest of your project for success, but it also de-risks your upgrade. You have way more confidence in your timeline, in your budget, and what the rest of your project plan looks like to go in and actually design and build and take advantage of that new V26 functionality. And then, it can also give you the ability to have a fixed price, but have confidence in that fixed price. So you know you're not going to get a change requested when the unforeseen happens. We try to find as much of that unforeseen in the blueprint process. So leave you with this. As clients, are you focused on capturing value or just staying compliant? And there's not a right or wrong choice. Everyone has different situations, different budget constraints, different timeline constraints. But it is worth asking the question, not only to your IT community, but also to your business community. V26, David and his team have worked outrageously hard on creating great value. how much of that are you able to capture? And how much would you like to capture? And then everybody is talking about AI today. And Upgrade is a great chance to lean into your AI initiatives because you're going through that testing phase already. You already have the project structured. Um, Take advantage of the AI. Bring us or Ion in, bring us in together to help solve some of those problems. So whatever tier you choose really shapes uh, really shapes what you walk away with.
Thank you, Patrick. We only have
Yeah.
about 5 more minutes left, so I'm going to jump into the questions that are in the Q&A. First question is, and feel free, whoever would like to answer this, are there plans for incremental save to be available in other tool sets, examples ComFut and ComSwap? Who would like to answer that question? David?
Yeah, I'll take that. That's more of a roadmap question. Yeah, so we've done all of the things that are in the Power tool set. We don't have currently on our roadmap to add other tool sets to the incremental save capability, but it's certainly not out of the question. I think it'd be interesting to hear, what what some of the challenges are that people might be experiencing. So certainly something I'd like to hear more about. Reach out to me on that one.
Thanks, David. Another question in the Q&A, can you please provide an example of the AI-assisted search tool for user questions?
Sure. I should say just come to the connection event because I'll be demoing it there. But I'll explain kind of what we have in place and what we'll show there, right? So we have created with one of our partners in the AI space a knowledge base that understands how to structure queries, for example, in the Openlink application. We have a chat window that you can interact with in our trading manager. You can put in your natural language queries. So you could say, please give me all of the trades that I've done in the last 30 days with X counterparty or with this type of deal, with these thresholds in place, whatever it is. And it will automatically filter the results of what you're looking at.
Thanks, David. 2 more questions in the Q&A. Any plan to integrate advanced Java editor like IntelliJ? Oh, you're speaking with
or VS Code.
yes,
Yeah,
integration to OL, all of that.
So yeah, maybe I'll say these are a lot of roadmap questions. Patrick, you should get some questions. The answer is yes. That is something that we're looking at potentially this year as well to support potentially IntelliJ and or VS Code in the application. So that is something that as an alternative to using Eclipse.
Great. Patrick, what are you hearing from customers on the need to upgrade? Anything about Openlink V26? What's out there in the market? What's needed?
So I'm especially excited about and I've gotten to work with David very closely on some of the C-Motion upgrades or extra functionality, especially for customers. Now I know it's probably a small subset, but for customers that do have rail, the adding of the vehicle functionality is a game changer, absolutely for your rail business. And it's really rounding out the OpenLink product, and I'm very excited about that. The other thing we're hearing from customers every day and everyone in the world is, I have this great ETRM system. Now, how can I use AI? And that's part of you want to have your system upgraded, up to date with the least amount of technical debt as possible, so you can leverage the data out of this system and connect your different AI tools to it. So not having most of your data in the system, but also a subset out on spreadsheets or a subset of this process is in an Access database, putting as much into your system, which an upgrade is a great function to do that, really preps you for the future to take advantage of especially some of that agentic AI, because agentic AI will have so much trouble connecting to Endure plus some other spreadsheets that hopefully someone has kept updated and hasn't forgotten about.
Thanks, Patrick. We have about 30 seconds for risk streaming. Is it only available in cloud version or it is available on-prem?
So, I think one of the answer is right now it's only available in the cloud, right? And I think that from the discussions we've had with our clients and the benefits that we're trying to achieve, that gives us the best availability to get to that point, right? We want the capability, whereas today a lot of these things are, we deploy them to you, you're responsible to run them, but if there's a problem, it's not necessarily easy for us to see where that problem is. Cloud gives us that visibility to that, and that shared responsibility, right? You're still operating some portion of the solution, but we have the capability to view that as well. So as of right now, that is the case. We have looked at and explored the possibility for an kind of like a quote unquote on-prem or in your own cloud deployment. But I think that is something we're definitely talking to clients about.
All right, I know it's 9 o'clock, but we have 2 more questions, so we're going to go through this really quickly. So we hope you can stay with us. How the Ion dark light theme work? How does it work with Trader Explorer?
So again, as I mentioned, right, so we're adding these 2 new themes. They're optional, right? You, by default, if you open version 26, you will get the standard default theme that you're used to in the application. If you choose to, let's say, move to Ion Light, there's settings in the application, just like anything else, where you can change that and you can experiment with it. You can do that on a user basis. You can roll it out to some users, whatever you choose to do. But it's entirely within your control how you choose to roll those out.
All right, and last question, any plans to get OL update, like a push notification like other applications?
Good question. It's something that we've looked at as part of our AI initiatives to do more alerting and based on monitoring or things that you set to be able to provide more alerts.
Well, great. That comes to the end of our session today. We are grateful that David and Patrick were able to sit with us today and that all of you were able to join us. This is being recorded. I will be sending it out by the end of the week, maybe next week. But thanks to everyone for joining us this morning, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.